Lahir dengan semangat mengisi kemerdekaan, Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta sejak awal berkomitmen memajukan bangsa melalui pendidikan. UPN Veteran Jakarta mengukuhkan diri sebagai kampus bela negara yang merupakan identitas tak terpisahkan sejak kampus ini berdiri tahun 1958 hingga mencapai status universitas negeri pada tahun 2014. Sejak itu, transformasi terus bergulir.
UPN Veteran Jakarta sebagai PTN adalah merupakan akhir dari proses panjang tentang kejelasan status. Dengan menjadi PTN, maka ada kepastian tentang status tersebut, dan selanjutnya yang terpenting saat ini adalah bagaimana UPN Veteran Jakarta mampu untuk sejajar dengan PTN-PTN lainnya. Dan tentu saja adalah bagaimana UPN Veteran Jakarta dapat memberikan kontribusi dan pencapaian program pemerintah khususnya di dalam pendidikan tinggi. Dalam hal ini adalah program dari Kemenristekdikti.
Bela negara menjadi rujukan dalam penyusunan kurikulum demi mewujudkan visi UPN Veteran Jakarta, yaitu menuju perguruan tinggi berbadan hukum, inovatif, berdaya saing yang beridentitas bela negara tahun 2025.
Dalam rangka mentransformasi UPN Veteran Jakarta menjadi PTN yang unggul dan berdaya saing di tingkat nasional, kerjasama menjadi faktor yang sangat penting bagi kita. Kita selama 4 tahun terakhir itu selalu masuk dalam posisi 10 besar. Jadi kualitas mahasiswa yang masuk di UPN ini, mahasiswa yang cerdas dan sangat cerdas. Jadi secara keseluruhan, upaya peningkatan kualitas pembelajaran kita lakukan secara sistematik, mulai dari kultur akademik, kemudian desain kurikulumnya, sampai peningkatan kualitas SDM kita hingga sarana prasarana pembelajaran.
Didukung dosen dan tenaga kependidikan yang handal, UPN Veteran Jakarta siap menjadikan setiap lulusannya mumpuni dalam 7 fakultas yang tersedia. Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Ilmu Politik, Fakultas Hukum, Fakultas Ilmu Komputer, Fakultas Kedokteran, Fakultas Teknik, Fakultas Ilmu Kesehatan, serta Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis. Sementara untuk menunjang kegiatan akademik, UPN Veteran Jakarta menyediakan pusat bahasa atau Labimkar, LBH atau hukum, sarana ibadah, poliklinik, laboratorium teknik, laboratorium kedokteran, laboratorium stem cell, laboratorium penunjang lainnya, perpustakaan, sarana olahraga, dan keamanan.
Di dalam mendukung daya saing para mahasiswa di dalam menempuh proses belajar mengajar di UPN Veteran Jakarta, UPN Veteran Jakarta telah memiliki beberapa sarana prasarana yang dapat digunakan sebagai salah satu peningkatan daya saing. Antara lain adalah perpustakaan yang sudah online, ya, berbasis dengan digital 4.0, di mana para mahasiswa saat ini bisa memperoleh referensi melalui online, jurnal-jurnal melalui online. Demikian juga sarana prasarana pendukung, kita memiliki Mesh Classroom. Di sini digunakan Mesh Classroom ini adalah suatu kelas yang dapat dilaksanakan kuliah secara bersamaan dengan teknologi yang canggih, di mana para mahasiswa dapat mengikuti dan para mahasiswa secara langsung dapat berinteraksi dari tenaga pengajarnya yang ada di satu tempat. Ya, sarana ini ada di kampus Pondok Labu maupun di kampus Limo.
Berbagai kerjasama dengan lintas pihak terus dilakukan untuk meningkatkan kualitas pendidikan dan meningkatkan lulusan pada kerja nyata. Sementara untuk meningkatkan kapasitas non-akademik, mahasiswa difasilitasi 25 unit kegiatan mahasiswa yang dapat dipilih sesuai minat.
Program-program yang kita terapkan di UPN Veteran Jakarta kepada mahasiswa pada dasarnya adalah peningkatan kualitas kegiatan kemahasiswaan yang nantinya akan meningkatkan rasa cinta kepada tanah air, rela berkorban demi nusa dan bangsa, dan juga berjiwa bela negara. Peningkatan rasa cinta tanah air itu diwujudkan dalam kegiatan kemahasiswaan yang sungguh-sungguh, kemudian mencapai prestasi yang tinggi baik di tingkat nasional dan juga internasional.
Berbagai kelengkapan sarana hingga prasarana tersebut telah menjadikan UPN Veteran Jakarta sebagai kampus rujukan generasi cinta negara. Tingkat kepercayaan di kalangan calon mahasiswa terus tumbuh. Animo pelajar untuk berkuliah di UPN Veteran Jakarta terus meningkat. Hal ini dapat dilihat dari masuknya 2 program studi UPN Veteran Jakarta dalam 10 prodi sosial dan humaniora dengan peminat terbanyak di Indonesia. Program studi ilmu komunikasi menempati urutan kedua dengan peminat sebanyak 2.981 calon-calon mahasiswa. Sementara program studi manajemen berada di urutan ketujuh dengan peminat 2.532 calon mahasiswa. Selain itu, nilai rata-rata calon mahasiswa yang masuk ke UPN Veteran Jakarta untuk program studi sains dan teknologi berada di urutan ke-10 dari perguruan tinggi di seluruh Indonesia. Berbagai prestasi tersebut telah menjadikan kampus UPN Veteran Jakarta sebagai salah satu kampus unggulan di Indonesia. Dalam 3 tahun terakhir, peringkat kampus secara nasional terus meningkat. Kemen Riset Dikti mencatat di tahun 2018, UPN Veteran Jakarta berada di peringkat 143, meningkat 290 angka dari tahun 2017. Pada tahun 2019, UPN Veteran Jakarta masuk 100 kampus unggulan nasional atau berada di peringkat ke-77. Transformasi UPN Veteran Jakarta yang telah menjadi universitas negeri adalah tonggak awal menuju era baru, mewujudkan universitas terkemuka di Indonesia.
Selamat berkarya, maju bersama, meraih prestasi.
Salam bela negara.
Transformasi terus terjadi. Sejak awal berdiri pada 5 Oktober 2007, Fakultas Ilmu Kesehatan atau FIKES UPN Veteran Jakarta terus berbenah untuk menyongsong kemajuan. Puncaknya adalah ketika status UPN menjadi perguruan tinggi negeri pada tahun 2014, di mana animo calon mahasiswa mengalami peningkatan yang sangat signifikan. Saat itu, calon mahasiswa yang mendaftar kuliah di FIKES hanya berjumlah 885 orang dan pada tahun berikutnya meningkat hingga 4.000 orang lebih. Peningkatan tertinggi tercatat pada tahun 2018, di mana hampir 7.000 calon mahasiswa mendaftarkan diri untuk kuliah di FIKES. Kini salah satu dari 7 fakultas terbaik di UPN Veteran Jakarta ini menempati urutan 20 nasional dalam pemilihan program studi Saintek. Ada 6 pemilihan program studi di FIKES. Program studi tersebut adalah Professioners, Program Studi Keperawatan Program Sarjana, Program Studi Kesehatan Masyarakat Program Sarjana, Program Studi Gizi Program Sarjana, Program Studi Keperawatan Program Diploma 3, Program Studi Fisioterapi Program Diploma 3. Dengan mengusung visi menjadi fakultas ilmu kesehatan unggul berkualitas internasional yang inovatif, berdaya saing, dan beridentitas bela negara, FIKES UPN Veteran Jakarta melakukan upaya dengan mengembangkan SDM, kelembagaan, sarana dan prasarana, suasana akademik, kemahasiswaan, dan budaya kerja pikir. Saat ini status akreditasi A telah diperoleh program studi gizi program sarjana, sedangkan 5 program studi lainnya masih menyandang akreditasi B dan sedang berproses menuju unggul. Dalam mengembangkan SDM, FIKES memiliki dosen pengajar yang sesuai dengan latar belakang pendidikan dan kompetensi keahliannya. Saat ini, terdapat 85 dosen tetap, 11 diantaranya merupakan dosen S.Gz. Untuk percepatan penambahan jumlah dosen dengan kualifikasi S.3, FIKES membuka rekrutmen melalui jalur non-PNS. Hal ini dilakukan demi menjaga mutu pendidikan. FIKES juga terus memberikan motivasi dan fasilitasi kepada sivitas akademika untuk terus meningkatkan kualitas penelitian dan pengabdian kepada masyarakat baik tingkat nasional maupun internasional agar terciptanya pembangunan kesehatan berkelanjutan. Selain itu, kerjasama dengan berbagai lembaga baik di dalam maupun di luar negeri untuk mendukung kegiatan Tridharma perguruan tinggi juga terus dilakukan. Untuk meningkatkan nilai-nilai bela negara, FIKES memfasilitasi mahasiswanya untuk mengikuti kegiatan kepemimpinan seperti organisasi mahasiswa dan kelompok studi mahasiswa. Mahasiswa FIKES juga lebih siap untuk turun dalam situasi kebencanaan karena telah dibekali dasar-dasar kesehatan matra. Agar terciptanya lulusan yang unggul dan mampu bersaing di dunia kerja, FIKES UPN Veteran Jakarta terus meningkatkan fasilitas untuk menunjang kurikulum pembelajaran. Salah satunya dengan adanya laboratorium untuk setiap program studi. Praktikum didukung dengan peralatan yang modern, mengacu pada kebutuhan dan perkembangan teknologi. Sebagai usaha membangun suasana akademik, FIKES UPN Veteran Jakarta memiliki ruang baca yang nyaman. Fasilitas ini merupakan salah satu fasilitas yang diunggulkan di UPN Veteran Jakarta. Selain dilengkapi dengan buku literatur dan hasil penelitian, ruang baca juga dilengkapi dengan tempat untuk berdiskusi dan mengerjakan tugas perkuliahan. Di sana, mahasiswa juga dapat dengan mudah menggunakan layanan komputer dan mengakses internet. Dengan berbagai keunggulan tersebut, bukan keniscayaan jika visi Fakultas Ilmu Kesehatan menjadi fakultas yang unggul, berkualitas internasional yang inovatif, berdaya saing, dan beridentitas bela negara akan tercapai.
Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. First of all, let's thank to our Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for all His blessing, so that we can attend this agenda without any troubles and obstacles. Secondly, salawat and salam may always be given to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness to the light. In this beautiful moment, I would like to welcome the Honorable Mr. Sugianto SEMM as a representative of Dian Faculty of Health Science, Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta, the Honorable Mrs. Dr. Nur Intania Sofyanita SIKOM MKM as a Head Nutrition Program and Lectures of Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta, the Honorable all the Nutrition Program Lectures of Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta, our honorable speakers, Dr. Yessi Crosita Octaria, Master in International Health as an affiliate scientist at Southeast Asia Ministers of Education Regional Center for Food and Nutrition, Professor Dr. Roslee Rajikan as a Center for Student Affairs, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, Mrs. Dian Luthfiana Sufyan, STP MSI, as a Nutrition Program Lectures of Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta.
There will be some interesting session in this NUTRISHOW.
Once again, respected Ms. Nisa Kamila as a Chief Executive Nutrition Show International Webinar 2022. Respected Ms. Zahra Kotrunada as a Chief Executive of HIMAGI, and all the respected participants of today's webinar. Please let me introduce myself. I, Nurul Amrina Saira, will be your Master of Ceremony this morning. And it's such a great honor for me to be here and welcome each of you in this webinar. Welcome to today's event, Nutrition Show International Webinar 2022, with the theme, The Preparation for Food Security in the Transition of the Pandemic to the Endemic Era. Once again, we would like to thank everyone here for making time to attend this remarkable webinar. So ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, please allow me to introduce you to today's agenda. In this event, we are going to do, first, opening by master ceremony, second, reading webinar rules, third, singing Indonesia Raya, fourth, welcoming speech, fifth, photo session, 6, pretest, 7, presentation from our speakers followed by question and answer session, 8, post-test, and the last is closing. Before we start the webinar, please allow me to read the webinar rules. The rules are, participants are encouraged to activate the camera during the event. Participants are requested to keep the microphone turned off during the event to avoid sound interferences. Participants are encouraged to use a virtual background that has been provided by the committee. Question and answer will be conducted at the end of each speaker session. Participants can ask questions via link on the comment section provided by the committee. Incoming question will be selected and submitted by the moderator. And to get a certificate, participants must fill the attendance form that will be given at the end of the event with proof of attendance. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin today's agenda by singing Indonesia Raya, Mars Bela Negara, and Mars Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta. Okay, thank you very much to the committee and all the participants. Moving to the next agenda, there will be welcoming speeches from our honorable. Firstly, we would like to invite Nisa Kamila as the Chief Executive Nutrition Show International Webinar 2022 to deliver the opening speech. To Ms. Nisa, time is yours.
Okay, thank you MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. First, whom I respect, Mr. Sugianto SEMM as representative of Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Mrs. Nur Intania Sofyanita as Head of Nutrition Program, lecturers, today's speakers and moderator, also all the committees and the audiences. First and foremost, I would like to praise and thank God, the Almighty who has granted countless blessing, knowledge, and opportunity for us to participate in today's Nutrition Show International Webinar 2022. The theme raised today is the preparation for food security in the transition of the pandemic to the endemic era, as an effort to maintain and improve nutritional status in this transition era. As we all probably know, COVID-19 has made tons of awfully bad impact in all existing sectors, including the food sector. This will interfere with food safety and food security, and later will affect a person's nutritional status. With this international webinar, it is hoped that all of us are able to understand more about the importance of the nutritional status by maintaining food security and safety. Thus, nutritional problems can be overcome. And I hope this webinar can bring us plenty of benefits. That's all from me. Thank you, and please enjoy the webinar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ms. Nisa, for your speech. Move to the next speech. We would like to invite Zahra Kotrunada as the Chief Executive of HIMAGI. To Ms. Nada, time is yours.
Okay, thank you MC for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Mr. Sugianto SAMM as Deputy Dean for General on Finance and at the Faculty of Health Science, Mrs. Dr. Nur Intania Sofyanita SIKOM KMKM as the Head of Nutrition Programs, all of the lecture in Nutrition Program, the Honorable our great speakers today, the Honorable our Moderator, Mr. Nanang Nasrullah, the Honorable, the Chief Executive of the International Webinar, Nisa Kamila, and all the participants of International Webinar 2022. First and foremost, I would like to praise and thank God, the Almighty, who has granted countless blessing, knowledge, and opportunity for us to participate in today's Nutrition Show International Webinar 2022. First of all, I would like to thank all invited guests, lecturers, our speaker, our moderator, and all participants for attending Nutrition Show International Webinar today. I hope all the participants stay excited even though again and again still going through virtual. The International Webinar Nutrition Show is one of HIMAGI UPN Veteran Jakarta Works program in the form of an international webinar where we invite participants from all over Indonesia and from abroad. This year's international webinar carries the theme, the preparation for food security in the transition of the pandemic to the endemic era. By bringing this theme, we hope that each of us can prepare ourselves in terms of our food security to get through the pandemic to endemic period. In this webinar, we also present our great speakers, both from the international and national realms. Of course, our great speakers are indeed working in the field of food security. We hope that with the implementation of this activity, all of our participants can take the benefits of the material we get and apply to our lives as a form of preparation for us during this transition from pandemic to endemic. I think that's all from me. I'm sorry for all the mistakes. I hope all the participants enjoy this event today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to MC.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ms. Nada, for your speech. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite Dr. Nur Intania Sofyanita, SIKOM MKM, as the Head of Nutrition Program Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta. To Mrs. Intan, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, MC. Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Health Science or their representatives, the Honorable Lecturers of the Nutrition Study Program, the Honorable the speakers, and the community members of the International Webinar Nutrition Show. This is about the preparation for food security in the transition of the pandemic to endemic era. This event is one of the program activities organized by the Nutritional Science Student Association or HIMAGI, Nutrition Study Program, Faculty of Health Science, UPN Veteran Jakarta. I would like to thank to the committee for organizing this very useful event. Thanks to all the speakers, Dr. Yessi Crosita, Professor Dr. Roslee Rajikan, Dian, Luthfiana, Sufyan, M.Gizi, and the webinar moderator Nanang Nasrullah MSE. Thank you to the participants for attending this international webinar. Finally, I hope this international webinar is useful for all of you for preparing yourself and your family to face the change from pandemic to endemic. Enjoy the webinar. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mrs. Intan, for the delightful speech. So for the last speech, please allow me to invite Dr. Mr. Sugianto SAMM as a representative of the Faculty of Health Science, Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta, that will be delivered by Mr. Sugianto SAMM. To Mr. Sugianto, time is yours.
Terima kasih Nurul ya. Mohon izin Nurul, apakah suara Bapak terdengar?
Sudah Bapak, sudah terdengar.
Ya. Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Puji syukur kita panjatkan pada Allah Subhanahu wa taala bahwa sampai hari ini kita masih diberi kesehatan, kelancaran. Mudah-mudahan acara yang dipimpin oleh, yang diselenggarakan oleh Mas Yessi bisa berjalan dengan baik. Amin. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, pembicara Ibu Dr. Yessi Crosita Octaria, terima kasih yang sudah hadir. Kemudian Bapak Profesor Dr. Roslee Rajikan, terima kasih Pak Prof sudah hadir dan saya sangat apresiasi sekali membantu mahasiswa di dalam hal webinar. Kemudian bicara ketiga Ibu Dian, Luthfiana, Sufyan. Terima kasih Bu Dian yang saya hormati juga. Kemudian yang saya hormati Kaprodi Gizi, Ibu Dr. Nur Intan, dan dosen tetap dari Prodi Gizi yang tidak bisa saya sebut satu persatu dengan tidak mengurangi rasa hormat saya. Kemudian yang saya hormati juga para peserta, ini sudah luar biasa, ini sudah saya lihat sudah masuk angka 431 ya dengan webinar ini sudah di mana pesertanya itu baik dari dalam negeri maupun dari luar negeri. Mohon izin saya tidak bisa nyebut satu-satu ya, untuk yang luar negeri itu dari Rusia, Malaysia, Cina, Hong Kong dan sebagainya. Begitu juga yang saya hormati para mahasiswa ya yang kami banggakan, khususnya mahasiswa dari M.Gizi, kemudian juga panitia ya yang sudah dapat menyelenggarakan acara webinar ini, mudah-mudahan bisa terselenggara dengan lancar. Terima kasih saya ucapkan. Nah, untuk webinar ini memang suatu hal yang dilakukan oleh mahasiswa, khususnya Prodi Gizi, itu dalam rangkaian berkelanjutan. Kali ini yang dalam tema NUTRISHOW ya tahun 2022. Mudah-mudahan acara webinar ini tentunya memberikan satu manfaat yang baik bagi kita semua maupun bagi masyarakat, khususnya masyarakat yang masuk dalam dunia kesehatan. Oleh sebab itu, maka dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, acara internasional webinar NUTRISHOW tahun 2022 kami nyatakan dibuka. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Sugianto, for your valuable remarks. All right, everyone. Moving to the next agenda, we are going to do photo session. So, for the participants and invited guests, please turn on your camera for a photo session. For the committee, please help me to take a photo while I'll be guiding in a count of 10. Give us your big smile, and let me start in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Thank you to all the participants and invited guests. Moving to the next agenda, we are going to do a pretest. So, please fill the pretest in the link that will be given in Zoom chat and YouTube comment section, or you can see it directly on your screen. Pretest can be done in about 15 minutes, starting from now. Now, we are proceed to the main agenda. This agenda will be guided by Mr. Nanang Nasrullah, STP, MSI, as today's moderator. But before this agenda is being guided, please allow me to read the moderator's curriculum vitae. So, our today's moderator is Mr. Nanang Nasrullah, STP, MSI. Mr. Nanang Nasrullah is graduated from Brawijaya University in 1999 for bachelor's degree in agricultural product technology and took a master degree in food science at IPB University in 2012. He was attended at several seminars as a speaker. Recently, in 2021, he was a speaker in recent updated on food research and innovation that held in Walaylat University, Thailand. In 2021, he was a speaker in a few seminars, such as Management of University of Pertamina Festival or Manifest 3.0, Community Devotion National Seminar, Program Pengembangan Kewirausahaan melalui pendekatan teknologi pengemasan dan pelabelan pangan in Andalas University, and also he was a speaker in Food Diversification Movement, Pola Pangan Beragam Bergizi Seimbang dan Aman B2SA untuk mencegah diabetes in Food Security and Fishery Service, an international nutrition webinar, Food and Nutrition Management in Emergency in UPN Veteran Jakarta. Mr. Nanang also published some scientific articles in natural journals. For example, in 2021, he published Proximate Composition, Crude Fiber, and Organoleptic Evaluation of Mixed Tempe from Soybean and Jali-Jali in Journal of Food Science and Agricultural Products. Besides, in 2021, he also contributed in some projects. He experienced in research tempe multigrain dari kedelai dan jali-jali. Afterwards, he was doing community service, program pengembangan kewirausahaan melalui teknologi pengemasan dan pelabelan. And also, he contributed in formulating public policy or other social engineering, TKDN evaluation at Ministry of Industry, and TKDN LED at Light at Dirjen EBTKE ESDM. All right, that was our moderator's curriculum vitae. So, I would like to check if Mr. Nanang is already here. Hello, Mr. Nanang. Assalamualaikum. Hello, Ms. Nanang. Mr. Nanang, are you here? Hello, Mr. Nanang. Assalamualaikum. Are you already in the Zoom meeting?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please, because I cannot unmute my Zoom. Okay, thank you. I'm here.
Okay, then shall we start the webinar right now, Mr.?
Yes. Okay.
All right. All right, because Mr. Nanang is ready, so without any further ado, we would like to invite Mr. Nanang to lead the webinar session. So, Mr. Nanang, time is yours.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam, and greeting of kindness. And the Honorable of the Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences, represented by Pak Vice of Dean of Faculty of Health Science, Pak Sugianto, and Honorable the Head of Nutrition Study Program, Ibu Dr. Nurinjani Shopineta, and Honorable all lecturers of Faculty of Health Sciences, UPN Veteran Jakarta, and respectable all participants of this webinar. Let us praise to the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Taala because of His blessing, so we can hold and attend this webinar. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nanang Nasrullah, and I will be the moderator of this webinar entitled Nutrition Show International Webinar. On behalf of the UPN Jakarta, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all the participants. Thank you all for finding time and joining today's webinar. As you know that the food security is a matter without no food and no nutrition for everybody. Also at present, we are facing the change here from pandemic of COVID-19 to the era of endemic, because the spread of the COVID-19 now is reduced. So we can be maybe for the future will facing the normal situation. As this is the important thing we can discuss. So therefore, our topic today is the preparation security in the transitions of the pandemic to the endemic era. And the special topics for today's themes of this webinar are the effect of the transformation in the COVID-19 endemic status on Indonesia food safety and security. And the strategy, the second one, strategy for improving food security during transition era. And the last one, back to adapting by preparing a healthy lifestyle in the transition era. And we already have prominent speakers for each topic. First is Ibu Dr. Yessi Crosita Octaria, MIH, and then the next speaker is Professor Roslee Rajikan, and the last speaker is Ibu Dian Luthfiana Sufyan S.Gz M.Gizi. Okay, before we start, let me explain how we will do and how you can interact with us during the webinar. So each presenter or panelist will deliver presentation for 45 minutes, roughly, then followed by the discussion for 20 minutes. If you have any questions during the presentation, just write them in the link provided in the chat room. Yeah. For the questions, please mention your name, your institution, and the speakers, your questions. We have a Q&A session to answer your question. Yeah. Of course, due to limited time, all the question cannot be answered, but we will do our best. Okay, now we can begin. So let me start to the first presenter today, Dr. Yessi Crosita Octaria. And please to show the CV of the presenters today. Okay, Dr. Yessi, the traditional background is she get the doctor degree in nutrition in Bogor Agricultural University, and professional background previously until now, yeah, she is affiliate scientist at Recon, and also she is editor for Jurnal Gizi dan Pangan Bogor Agriculture or IPB University today, Agri and Indonesian Food and Nutrition Association. And also she has experiences. Yeah, the last one is research team member for assessment school preparedness for face-to-face meeting during COVID-19 pandemic. And then the facilitators for workshop and training in sexual and reproductive health service during natural disaster for midwives for the catastrophic. And then she's also a consultant, yeah, and facilitator for training and workshop to develop internal registration and standard operating procedures to implement 10 steps to successful breastfeeding in hospitals and community health centers, global or again, yeah. Next. Okay, there are so many experience she get, yeah, and so the publication, the last one is tembakau and stunting, it's a group and stunting, yeah. Potret persepsi masyarakat dan pembuat kebijakan. So this is the perception of the community and the government about the stunting and how to control the growth for maybe cigarette or smoke. Yeah. Next. Okay, and also she's contributors for the Anemia Balita Peluang yang Terabaikan. Ini the books she published with the team. Yeah. Okay, that's all the CP of our presenters, first presenters today. Okay, Ibu Yessi will give the keynote speech about the effect of the transformation in the COVID-19 endemic status on Indonesian food safety and security. Hello, Ibu Yessi, are you there?
Hello, Pak Nanang.
Okay, please, Ibu Yessi, the time is yours.
Okay, I would like to share my screen. Can you see my screen now? Okay. Can everyone see my screen now? Hello?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the committee for organizing the seminar and also for the moderator and other speakers. Today we will talk about recovering the food safety and security post-COVID-19 pandemic. I think my material will be linked to the second and the third presenter. My material will be some kind of the introduction to go further into the strategy of recovering the food security and also strategy for individual or household level ways to improve food safety and also nutrition. The menu for today, of course, we will talk about how to differentiate food safety and food security, because those are two different topics. We will talk about food safety. We will talk about how does the pandemic affect food safety and then the challenges that we face, and then move on to food and nutrition security and how does the pandemic affect the food and nutrition security in general, and also what happened in Indonesia and what are the government response to shield the food and nutrition security in Indonesia. And then further we will talk about what needs to be done and what can we do. Okay, what is food and nutrition security? Because this is the most important stepping stone. Food security exists when all people at all time have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preference for an active and healthy life. There is the keyword of safe. And then in Indonesia, the definition is wider based on Indonesian Food Law number 18/2012. Food security is the need for food are fulfilled from the country level down to the individual's level, reflected by adequate availability of quantity and quality, safe, diverse, nutritious, equal, accessible food that conform to their religion, belief, and culture to support sustainable, healthy, and productive life. There is a keyword of safe, but also to conform to their religion, belief, and culture. This is translated to the definition of food security. For example, there are two in the US FDA, the definition of food safety refers to the condition and practice that preserve the quality of food to prevent contamination and foodborne illnesses. But in Indonesia, the definition referred to the food law is, and also from the Indonesian FDA, food safety is a condition and effort needed to prevent food from 3 possible contaminants. This is more practical, namely biological, chemical, and other objects that can interfere, harm, endanger human health, and this is a key, do not conflict with religion, belief, and culture of the community. So that is safe for consumption. This is very special to Indonesia, the wider religion, belief, and culture context, because we have to cater to the need of 90% of the population having a religion and belief that is that have a specific rules for food. Now let's talk about how does the pandemic or the COVID affect food safety. So we will talk about food safety. the evidence showed that the effect of COVID-19 pandemic to food safety is not direct. There is limited evidence that the virus can be transmitted via food or food packaging because the main transmission is from person to person. So implementation of good hygiene practice and hazard analysis and critical control point for food industries are keys to prevent the disease transmission. It doesn't mean that the COVID-19 does not pose any challenges to the food safety. Rather, the food safety challenges are indirect. Challenges are mostly in the food system rather than direct effect from the virus transmitted via vomit or via food or food packaging. What are the challenges for food safety in pandemic? For example, there are reduced capacity to maintain a fully functioning food safety inspection program, resulting from the reallocation of staff, for example. And then another example is reduced food testing capacity of food laboratories, and then increased risk to the integrity of the food supply chain from food fraud, for example, and then increasing number of queries and questions for the human resources in the food safety authority. To answer questions about food safety, for example. And then increased risk associated with distribution chain because of the lockdowns or the restricted mobility policy. So the effect of COVID-19 pandemic to the food safety issue are mostly indirect. At the country level, what happened if we try to see the indicators to see is there any changes in food security in Indonesia? We can see the Global Food Security Index report comparing 2018 and 2021. Our score in food safety is reduced. However, we need to be careful. This is a proxy indicator. The indicator that used for food safety at the country level are 1, percent of agency to ensure the safety and health of food, 2, percentage of population with access to portable water, and the presence of formal grocery stores. So for example, water and sanitation help with food safety, and then formal grocery store opening lead to a safer food market, for example. So this is a proxy, but we can see that there is a reduced score in the food safety indicators in Global Food Security Index from 2018, assuming before pandemic, to 2021, the latest report after pandemic. So what can we do? What can we do at the food retailer service? Because the food retailers are the one affected the most in the distribution chains because of the closing downs and also the restriction mobility policy. Of course, good hygiene practice, personal hygiene, kitchen hygiene, food hygiene. In the retail sector, you can improve the cleaning and sanitizing activity, implement social distancing, and also personal hygiene, both for the customers and also for the workers. And then redefine customer service by, for example, online food service or deliveries, for example. Those are the things that can be done to improve the food safety, protecting employees and consumers in many ways to prevent them from contracting COVID-19. Now, let us move on to the wider picture. Food safety is part of food security. Let us now talk about the food security. Again, this is the same like the first slide. Food security exists when all people, all time, physical and economic access. In Indonesia, it is wider. It talks also about religion, belief, and culture. These are the 4 pillars of food security. The 4 pillars are food availability, means that foods are in sufficient quantities and are available. And then accessibility means people have access both physically and economically, or able to afford the food. And then the last one, able to utilize. The most important thing is that it has to be stable. The 4 pillar has to be stable at all time. And the COVID pandemic attacking the stability of the food security pillars. It creates a shock to the stability of availability, access, and utilization. Let's see in more detail. How does the pandemic affect food and nutrition security? First, we have to accept that food insecurity happens before the pandemic. It means that even without the pandemic, there is food insecurity issue. But the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbates those issues by deepening inequalities, and through the lockdown policy create global economic recession, disrupted the supply chains, disrupted the social protection program. It causes uneven food prices effects, change in production, and then also altered food environment. These all lead to increased poverty and food insecurity. This is more in detail in the linear form. So there is disruption because of the COVID-19 pandemic. There is disruption in the food supply chains. For example, in the food production system, where the farmers, for example, are ill, and then the storage and distribution because of the lockdown, and then also the disruption in the food environment, for example, in the food availability, the type and diversity of food that is offered, and then food affordability because of the limited supply of food from the supply chains. There is increase in price, for example. And then move on to the individual factors. There is income or purchasing power that is lower. And then also the, for example, situational condition where you don't have enough money, you tend to buy food that is less nutritious, less diverse, and also purchase food that can stay long in the fridge, for example, because you want to you don't want to lost so many foods, for example. And then consumer behavior, preparation, meal practice, and storage. This also important. Those affect the diets, the food security and health of the people because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So those are the chain reaction, how the COVID-19 pandemic affects at the end the diets of the people, or the food security issue. Now let's talk about more in the narrative form, the issue of how does the pandemic affect food and nutrition security in Indonesia as an example. COVID-19 pandemic affect food and agriculture to various mechanisms ranging from disruption in the international trade to decrease in domestic production and distribution, as well as decline in people's purchasing power. However, we have to be grateful for the government's mitigation strategy. Indonesia has not faced dramatic increase in food prices since the first COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, there are some price fluctuation, but it is situational near the Idul Fitri holiday, for example. However, it doesn't mean that there is no problem in the food security issue. For poor and vulnerable people, the drop in income has caused not only a decline in food intake, but also deterioration in dietary quality. Because the COVID-19 pandemic also disrupt the transportation of agriculture products, especially for perishable ones like vegetables, this adding the cost, which will make it more difficult for the poor household to afford them. As a result, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic most likely harmed the nutritional status of the poor and vulnerable groups. In addition to disruption of the food chains, there is disruption in primary healthcare service by closing of posyandos and community health centers. This has caused immunization, micronutrient supplementation, and healthcare services for pregnant mothers and under 5 children decline. In areas severely affected by COVID-19, the number of children receiving all basic vaccination fall from 1.2 million in April to 0.19 million children in April this year. While we know vaccination is one of nutrition-sensitive intervention. Again, continued. Implementation of restricted mobility policy has disrupted the supply chain, in turn contribute to delays in distribution of medical and foodstuff. Demand for foodstuff fell considerably because reduced or closing operation time of traditional markets made difficult for farmers to sell their product. Restriction on flight contribute to the disruption of logistical system. For example, in cabinet meeting on 28 April 2020, our president stated that the restricted mobility policy adversely affected the distribution of food and other necessary goods in certain regions. There had been deficit of rice in 7 provinces, maize in 11 provinces, chili in 23 provinces, and eggs in 22 provinces. However, those challenges has been answered. How the government cushion or respond this effect? There are 5 government priorities. First, to ensure availability of staple foods, especially rice and maize. Second, maintain the country's economic growth through expediting export of strategic commodities. And then third, informing farmers and extension workers about the health protocol so that they can still be productive and doing their production. Fourth is developing agriculture market in each province, increasing the consumption of local food and building logistic and infrastructure and e-marketing system. Consuming local food become important because it help with lowering transports, and also it conform to the restricted mobility policy. The last one is implementing manpower intensive project in rural areas to help develop the agriculture sector and provide the rural society with money to cushion the negative impact. So this is from the purchasing power. As part of its effort to stabilize food price, the government also relaxed import restriction on some commodities, especially as the country was entering the Eid al-Fitr holiday. So in general, this strategy works because we don't experience any extreme food prices increase during the pandemic. This is another thing that the government do. As part of the Indonesian response to the impact of COVID-19, government allocate funds from the state coffers to prevent negative economic growth and help poor and vulnerable people deal with the difficult economic condition caused by the pandemic. This is from this mostly on the form of cash transfers. These are some of the cash transfers program. So we have the PKH program, we have cash transfers from Ministry of Agriculture and also Ministry of Maritime and Fisheries. There are many cash transfer programs to cushion the economic impact of the pandemic for the poor and the vulnerable, and also from the supply chains of agricultural products. So what happened to our food security index? In the report of Global Food Security Index in Indonesia from 2018 to 2021, we experienced a decline in food diversity. It doesn't mean that before the pandemic our dietary diversity is already good. Our dietary diversity has been low for sometimes, and the COVID-19 pandemic make it lower. So our score in food in dietary diversity declined from 2018 to 2021. However, our nutrition problem seems to be improved. So from the SSGBI 2019, we can see that the prevalence of stunting, wasting, and underweight improve in SSGI 2021. We can debate on the method or the samples of the survey. However, at the national level, we can see that all the sensitive and specific intervention for nutrition, especially, has yielded improvement in the under 5 children nutrition status. Now, what are the strategy, or what can we do? What needs to be done? We have to go back to the pillars of food security first. The pillars are food availability, food access, utilization, and stability. What needs to be done in terms of food availability? First, of course, for the government to monitor the rice stocks. So the availability of staple food is assured. And then the second, maintain farmers' incentive to uphold food production so that we can minimize the shock in the food supply chains by ensuring input supplies, mobility of farm workers, concession for loan prepayment, and link to the market for rice and other food commodities. This includes mobilization from various sources such as the Village Fund, agriculture fintech, startups for technology and capital boost. The third, improvement in the transportation and overall supply chain system to ensure that food commodities, especially perishable items such as vegetable, fruit, fish, and meat, remain available without price increase. This is the strategy for food availability. In terms of access, the government need to have sufficient and right on target social assistance for the poor and marginalized group. So the cash transfers or any other social safety net program need to cushion the economic impact of COVID-19 on their well-being, especially regarding food consumption, and it has to be right on target. The second, extending the use of some part of the Village Fund for social assistance to support various initiatives to help the poor and vulnerable group. The third is opening the market and rebound the economic activities. Opening the market means easier physical access and economic and improve affordability of the food items. And then the fourth is to create new market opportunities by including accelerating intra-regional trade and development of new food trade platform, for example, digital food platform. In terms of food utilization, the government needs to adapt new ways of operating the community health centers and service to deal with the COVID-19 to ensure that children, women of childbearing age, and pregnant and lactating mothers can have access to basic health services. The second is to improve knowledge and awareness of social protection and nutrition program about healthy diet and how to prevent malnutrition, both from the recipients and the cadre side. Continue food sensitive and food specific intervention such as deworming program, iron supplementation, supplementary foods, and also continue expanding access to clean water and sanitation. Some challenges in food availability in Indonesia has been answered by the government. There are 4 actions to increase food availability in the new normal era. First, the government already strategized to increase production through acceleration and expansion in agriculture land. The second, the local food diversification. This include using other food staples that is commonly found in the area rather than always eating rice, for example. Based on local commodities in the region, including improving the utilization of marginal land and home garden, strengthening food reserve and logistic system to ensure stability of supply and price, and also development of modern agriculture industry, including some digital platform for markets. So what can we do as healthcare workers in the field of nutrition? Our task mainly is to improve utilization of nutritious and safe food because the pandemic has caused the consumer to shift to cheaper and less healthy diets. It shifts toward processed and shelf-stable food, ultra-processed food, because it is easy to store. And then link between malnutrition and COVID-19. This problem not only talking about malnutrition in terms of undernutrition, this also can increase the problem in obesity and micronutrition deficiency because of the lack in dietary diversity and preference to ultra-processed food. So we need to improve the food utilization of the people, the patients or our clients, Indonesian people in general. However, of course, before utilization, there are other pillars that need to be addressed. The food first has to be available, and then it is accessible, and then later it has to be utilized in the correct way. This is the key take-home message on how the global pandemic actually, in a simple form, how the global pandemic affect the household food and nutrition security. So the global COVID pandemic has caused social and economic impacts and also health impacts. Global COVID-19 pandemics also create government policies and measures that answer to the global pandemic. This include the social restricted mobility policy, for example. This has caused demand shock and also disruption in the supply chains. These factors cause disruption in the household food and nutrition security, especially for the poor and vulnerable. They experience shock that decrease the quality and the quantity of food that they consume. So I think that's all from me, and I will stop sharing my screen, and I give the time to the moderator.
Okay, wow. Thank you, Yessi, for your excellent presentation, yeah, and the sharing of the keynote on the effect of the transmission of COVID-19 and the status and initial for safety and security. And I can some of the points we can conclude, yeah, that the disruption to all sectors affected, yeah, to the food security in general. And so there are some people such as the poor and vulnerable groups, yeah, that are most affected from this COVID-19, yeah. But then the government has already made some policy, even though there's some restrictions, such as PSBB, but they can handle it. Mostly of the policy is about the food access, yeah, such as funding and also program Keluarga Harapan and also other social safety nets, yeah, you can see. Also, we can see the parameters, even though there are some restriction and also problem with the nutritional problem, but we can see there are some improvement there, even though in the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it should have to be the reduce the index of the such as stunting, wasting, but this is the government has already make it improvement for the some nutrition problem, even though in the COVID-19 pandemic. So now we are in Q&A discussion. So I will mention some of the questions. The first question is, Okay. Okay, maybe I'm the one to make a first question for you for waiting the question from participants. Maybe you can explain to us how the government or some of the nutritional problem improve, even though in fact there are problems with such as the restriction of some of restriction, and also they don't have any money to buy food, so there's some people they get the what you call it PHK, and so they have no work. So but in other side, the nutrition problem improve. So maybe you can explain how.
Okay, first we have to assume that the way the problem is measured is the same from 2019 to 2021. So we are not addressing the methodology of measuring the problem or the malnutrition condition. From that assumption, we can see that although maybe at micro level, at household level, or in a small area levels, there are problems of food access and utilization. However, in the macro level, we have not experienced any high food inflation. For example, people are still able to access food, and also, for example, for stunting, it is a chronic nutritional problem. With the current infrastructure for the stunting reduction, it works. It means that the way the government have the food sensitive and food specific intervention actually proven to be able to cushion the effect of the COVID-19 on their food, the household and individual food security. Those it reflected in the nutrition status of the under 5 children. And also the fact that many of the intervention are directed to the rural areas, which help them to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think the sum, so maybe the parts are not that good. There are problems in some parts, but the sum of those parts actually we have better condition in the nutrition sector, which is, if we want to talk in the contrafactual condition, it might be better if there is no COVID-19 pandemic. So those are the things that the questions or the thing that we need to critically ponder on the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on the current program regarding food and nutrition security, especially for nutrition outcome. I think that is my answer, because there are a lot of, we don't have contrafactual evidence to say that this is actually what works. However, we have to be, we need to be grateful that at the end, it's actually improvement in the nutrition sector, but it doesn't mean we don't have challenges or problems to answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next questions. Maybe the committee can show. Okay, this is the question. During a pandemic, many diseases can caused by contamination in food. While there is still a lack of knowledge and awareness of the handlers or food processor, of the importance of hygiene, sanitation, as well as the lack of skills of food processing personnel, which will cause food to become less suitable for consumption. Is there an applicable method in order to make a good training that can make the community or our employees conspire to apply hygiene and sanitation?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. If we talk about food handler, we have to, when we ask question about is there any applicable method in order to make good training. The key for food safety is good hygiene practice, and also for larger food production, we can use the HACCP. However, we need to ask ourselves again, who are we talking to? Who are our audience for the training, for example? This is actually a question for us as not only me, but also you as a nutrition healthcare worker in the field of nutrition, how to create an applicable method that appeal to different type of food handlers, for example. You cannot have the same training for food stalls near the market compared to an industry, for example. The key is always good hygiene practice, and also finding a critical point where food safety problem can arise or food safety is compromised. I think I don't have a simple answer for this, because I would like to return the question to you. What can you do? Those are the things that you have to ponder, you have to create, you have to innovate in answering the challenge from the arising situation. I think that's all from me, Pak Nanang.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yessi. And the next question, maybe. Okay, what things can we do to maintain food safety during the COVID-19 pandemic and after the COVID-19 pandemic? It means the endemic era, yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
Please, Yessi.
Okay, I think there is what we call blessing in disguise in terms of food safety during the COVID pandemic era. We are now more cautious on food safety. We also more cautious in the food in personal hygiene, for example, and also the hygiene of the place where we order food. What things can we do to maintain food safety during the COVID-19 pandemic? There are institutional response, for example, from the Food and Drug Association, we have a body to help ensure food safety for industries. For local food industry, through the PIRT, for example, the homemade small businesses in the district level. It's for the institutional response, we can have that from the local district health office, for example. Now from the individual level, so what can we do as an individual, as a university, for example? Those are also challenges that we need to answer. As a healthcare professional, you can, when you order food or when you go to some food retailers, you can ask them, talk to them about food safety issues, and also help them to be aware of food safety issue. For example, if you see their kitchens are not good or not clean, and they don't have running water, you can ask them and you can talk with them individually. As university, like the first question, you can help create or innovate on making a food safety training or food safety education material available and accessible to the wider audience. I think those are the things that you can do, we can do at the country level, at the district level, as individual level, as a university entity. I think those are the things that we can do. Thank you, Pak Nana.
Okay, maybe for the questions, I request to mention who are you from, and also the name, because I cannot set what is this the question form, Okay, next question. We have Sanya. Okay, during the pandemic, all the food ingredients prices were drastically increased. It causes panic buying among the people in Indonesia. Does it affect food security in a pandemic? What should we do to handle that? Okay, please, Dr. Yessi.
I think we have to talk with data, During the pandemic, all the food ingredient prices were drastically increased. That is not true. The data stated that the prices were not drastically increased. There are some increase in food prices during holidays, Idul Fitri holidays. But aside from that, there are some increased prices, but it is not drastic. Panic buying. There is no panic buying in Indonesia. Okay. The data showed that there is no panic buying in Indonesia. Some people, yes, in the urban area, some yes, but it is a small proportion. Somehow it is like a blessing in disguise that Indonesian people are slow to realize the emergencies. So they are like more relaxed in facing the pandemic. It does not cause panic buying, that not cause any. There are some shortages in a few areas for rice and maize, but those are related to the Idul Fitri rather than because of the pandemic. What should we do to handle that? I think the government already, the government strategic mitigation has answered to the supply and access, supply and demand. Although there is a disruption in the distribution, I think there are some logistic strategies and also cushioning them from the impact of the economic impact of the pandemic has helped them with the food access. While on the other hand, we have enough supply and logistic to cover for that. However, that is from the perspective of staple food. However, for dietary diversity, there is we don't have a very good dietary diversity score even before the pandemic, but the pandemic is actually lowering that dietary diversity. However, we don't have an exact measures on how much does that cost by the pandemic itself rather than other factors around the pandemic. I think what should we do to handle that? At country level, the government has taken some sufficient measures to ensure that food is available and food are accessible. At the district level also by having improved the local food by consuming local food, because that is cutting the distribution change. By consuming local food means that we do not depend on the transportation of food from other areas. At individual level, of course, we need to find other way to still fulfill the dietary diversity, for example, by planting our own vegetables, because perishable food are more expensive, for example, or buying from the small stall around the areas rather than buying from larger supermarket. I think those are the things that you can help in improving the chain of food security in your area. I think that's all from me, Pak. Nano?
Okay, thank you. It means that the food prices actually similar with the before the pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, it increases, but not that drastic. So that in general, people are still able to access, especially for staple foods. Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Maybe one more question. The last, please show the questions. Or I seen that one of the participant raised hand. Maybe I don't know. Okay, okay. This question. Is the pandemic one of the causes of the scarcity of cooking oil in? Oh, I think
Okay.
you just answer this question directly because it's the I think because not cooking oil is one
Yeah.
of the problem, not because of the pandemic. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Please.
Pandemic, the cause of scarcity of cooking oil? No, it's not. It's more about the trade policy, and I am not. It's not my area of expertise, so I won't be able to answer the first question. I mean, the beyond saying no. I mean, I cannot elaborate more why it is not related to the pandemic, because it is related to the trade policy of the palm oil rather than because of the pandemic. How that trade policy of palm oil affect the scarcity of cooking oil, I cannot explain beyond that because it's not my area of expertise. But there is a blessing in disguise again. Because of the increase in price of the cooking oil, we are now open to more ways of processing food in healthier way by steaming and boiling. This is good from the perspective of we are able to process food in less fatty method. However, we all know that food utilization is not only affected by the nutrition. I mean, eating or consuming food is a cultural thing rather than only nutrition things. It means that we are also depend on the satiety and also the taste of the food. And we are all know that frying something make it taste good. So there is a delicate balance of having tasty food and nutritious food. So when you ask me, is this good from the aspect of nutritional fulfillment? In terms of reducing fat, it is good. But if the food is steamed and boiled and people do not eat it, then it is not good from the nutritional fulfillment perspective, because there is a healthy food, but you don't consume it. So it is a challenge for us to create menus and ways of cooking that is healthy, but also delicious, also tasty, so that healthy food can be actually consumed and utilized by the person that we intended to give the food to. I think that is from my perspective.
Okay, thank you. I think as you said that it's blessing in disguise, yeah. So because of the frying oil is I think it can be a problem for the health of the people here. So based on this situation, that when the frying oil is fried, so people make it differences processing of the food to steaming or boiling. Actually, based on the history of food, as originally, processing of food in Indonesia is steaming and boiling, not frying. Frying actually is imported style from I have heard from Chinese. Yeah, they use oil for processing the food. So I think it's better for us to make it our food steamed or boiled because it more safer, and also keep the nutrition, the donation of the food. Okay. It look like the speaker already answered all the question of participant. Okay, Dr. Yessi, is there anything else you would like to mention or closing remarks for 1 or 2 minutes before we end this discussion?
Okay, so I think as you see, as we talked about previously, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused some disruption to our food security, that is include the food safety. However, all those challenges sometimes offer blessing in disguise. We are now we are now more aware on how to safeguard our food safety and also food security. Now we are more aware on how to cut our carbon footprints by consuming local foods. Those are the things that we need to pay attention or highlight, rather than we always focus our lens into the problem. Those are the good thing that arises from the blessing in disguise that arises from the COVID-19 disruption. Those are the things that we need to maintain. We need to explore more and innovate it more. As Pak Nanang said before, also for food processing, for example, those are the things that we need to pay attention. Those are the lessons that we learned from the pandemic, and we can move forward with those lessons and build a better food environment, food system for a better food security in Indonesia. I think that's from me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yessi. Now we are coming to the end of the first session. At the time the first discussion is over, then we can continue the next topic. Before that, the official committee would like to deliver certificate to Ibu Dr. Yessi. Okay, please kindly accept this certificate, Ibu Dr. Yessi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, all right. Thanks for the session of Ibu Dr. Yessi for the, I think, remarkable presentation, and also give us the new view that there are so many blessings in disguise from that we have faced. All right. Okay. Next, I would like to invite the second presenter, Professor Dr. Rajikan, to give the keynote speech about strategy for improving food security during transition era. He is from Center for Student Affairs, University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UTM, and also the lecturer there. So please show the CPU of the Professor Rajikan. Okay. Okay, you can see there are some of the involvement of the, and also the position, for the Rajikan, also identifiers, and also the coordinator is a professor in clinical nutrition and dietetics. And some of involvement we can see here, there are so many credits you can see here. Next, I can see the, okay. Wow, so also some publication, I think, such as, okay, this also some of the book we publish, such as dietary trace minerals, and also in journal Science Malaysia and others things. So we can see the book he has published, Health of HIV infected people in LCOK, is published from Elsevier, and also penuaan sehat dan kesejahteraan, and then isu masyarakat bagi berpendapatan rendah di Malaysia, beban denda dan kesehatan. Next. Okay, there are many publications from Professor Dr. Rajikan. Next. Okay, there are also some ready for presentation in the others international national conference. Next. Okay, that's all the CV from the Professor Dr. Rajikan. Okay, so, please, Professor Rajikan, are you there?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, of course. Okay, please, Professor Rajikan, time and screen are yours. Thank you.
Yeah, I will try to share my slides. Yeah.
Okay, please, committee, to share the slide of from the professor. Okay, please, Professor.
Can you all see my slides?
Yes, clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for the kind introduction. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the organizer for inviting me to share some insights on the strategy that we can in a way implement to improve food security, especially during this transition era from the pandemic to endemic situation. So just a bit about myself, Mr. Moderator. As mentioned, I'm from the Center Dietetics Program from the Center for Healthy Aging and Wellness at the Faculty of Health Science. I no longer handle the student affairs. Now I'm handling strategy and corporate communication for the universities. And my research interest is mainly on diet optimization modeling, where I try to incorporate the RNI or RDA or the dietary recommendation with food price using mathematical modeling and try to get the cheapest cost to achieve a balance and dietary intake. So I guess this type of modeling is quite useful, especially during this era where we see a bit of a slight increase in food price because of some conflict in Ukraine, and there are also some restriction of export in certain countries. So there is some issues there that might make us to choose food that is less costly but high in nutrient. So I also do some research on special need individual, including genetic disorders, developmental disorders, and as mentioned, HIV, and also did studies with homeless individuals and low-income population. So a bit about UKM for those who haven't been in UKM or University Kebangsaan Malaysia. On the left side, the picture is our main campus located in Bangi, Selangor. And we also have two teaching hospitals. One is for adults, and the colorful building there you can see on the left, below left, like a Lego building, is our latest children's specialist hospital. So we are catering only for special cases involving children and adolescents. And on the right side, you can see that we have 7 living labs, including 2 community attachment, and this is spread out throughout the country in Malaysia. Yeah, so we have living lab in, for example, in Langkawi, Tasik Chini, Mersing for our marine courses. And recently, Alhamdulillah, UKM has risen in the QS World ranking to number 129, and we hope to further increase in the ranking in the near future. So for my presentation this morning, I will discuss or in a way recap a bit on food security versus food insecurity. The earlier speaker have touched a bit on that, and probably I will elaborate a bit more on that. I will also discuss as what the previous speaker have mentioned about the impact of COVID-19 on food security as well. And lastly, I will share my thoughts on what are the strategies that we can utilize to improve food security among the population, especially, as I said, with the current, there's some issues on food availability and also food price because of the current conflict, the situation, and also it is all, in Malaysia is also related to the political and economical situation as well. So if we look back into the basic, we know that food is a fundamental human right, as stated in Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which stated that the right to adequate food and the fundamental right of everyone is to be free from hunger. However, as we have experienced, I believe when we look into certain pocket of the population, for example, the very poor, low income, urban poor, there are still some which experience food insecurity and also food hunger. And the importance of addressing food insecurity has been recognized through the goals of Sustainable Development Goals 2030, especially goals number 1, that is no poverty or to end poverty in all its form everywhere, and goals number 2, zero hunger, that aim to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. So if we look into the definition of food security versus food insecurity, we can see that the World Food Summit have defined that food security is when all people at all time have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. It's not just the quantity of food, but also the quality of food in terms of its nutritional value to meet their dietary needs and food preference for an active and healthy life. Of course, the previous speaker have also mentioned the cultural influence of dietary habits, as well as satiety, which we need to, and the taste of the food, which also might influence the consumption of the dietary needs. So any changes in terms of the type of food that we consume need to consider all those aspects to ensure that the food available is consumed by the person or the individual. And in terms of food insecurity, it will exist whenever the availability of nutritional, adequate, and safe food or ability to acquire acceptable in socially acceptable ways in limited or uncertain. So food insecurity has negative consequences on the health population, primarily due to the poor dietary intake and low dietary diversity patterns of food insecure population. So we can see the food insecurity can manifest itself into malnutrition, where you can see people experiencing underweight or stunting or wasted, and on the other extreme, you have the overweight and the obesity population. So in our, I believe in Malaysia and also in other countries, including Indonesia, we have seen cases of both extreme undernutrition and overnutrition in the same population. So it's something that we need to address, and it probably relate as well into the aspect of food availability and also food waste. Some people might have the luxury to have more food choices as compared to others, but at the end, if it's not careful, it can lead to food waste, where other people might not have that luxury to get the food, so they just grab whatever is available. So we need to consider all these aspects to, in a way, help all individual or all people of the population can achieve food security. As mentioned by the earlier speaker, the definition of food security is multi-dimensional, and it is built on 4 pillars, namely the physical availability of the food, economic and physical access to the food, and food utilization and stability of the three dimensions over time. The first dimension of food security refers to the availability of food to in sufficient quantities of adequate food quality, either from domestic production or from import. So in Malaysia, we rely quite a lot on import as well. So if there are conflict or there are restriction from others, so we in a way are affected by that as well. So one of the strategies is to increase local or domestic production to improve food security. And this dimension not only include physical availability, but it's also involve nutritional characteristic of the food. The second dimension of food security is access to food, covers the demand side of food security. It answers the question of whether people have enough resources to afford adequate and healthy food. And this dimension implies both economic and physical access to food. So that's why, as I said, I'm involved in trying to utilize mathematical modeling to find the cheapest cost for population to achieve the maximum nutrient consumption. The third dimension of food security refers to the utilization of food, and lastly, the stability as a dimension of food security refers to ability to have access to available food at all time, and it relates both to the aspect of supply and the aspect of demand within food security. It has been recognized as a significant concern at the global, national, community, and household and individual level. In 2019, despite we are facing with a stable global food production, the FAO project that there will be an increased number of people experiencing food insecurity throughout the world. And if we look into the global food situation, according to the United Nations, the world population will reach 7 billion or even more by the year 2020, maybe 9.3 billion by 2050. And we can see that the food price increased rapidly after 2006 and peaked in 2012. And I will share you the latest data on food price. And there are several factors which contribute to the increase in food price, including drought, rising in oil prices, and also financial crisis. So that increase in food price have driven a lot of people into poverty. So this again showing the graphical abstract of food insecurity, where the risk factor for a poorer diet include demographic factors, socio-economic factors, environmental factors, which correlates with food security, and people trying to manage that. They will use several coping strategies, and if it is not controlled, then it will manifest into or affect the nutritional status of individual. I mentioned about underweight and overweight. In terms of the dietary aspect, the diet might be low in diet quality and produce insufficient intake of nutrient, or you can see in terms of biomarkers, there will be an elevation in plasma, glucose, cholesterol, or lipoprotein cholesterol. And the functional outcome will relate to reduce in quality of life, whether it is physical or mental. So some of the risk factors that contribute to food insecurity, including, as I mentioned, there is a growing number of population in our country, the economic inequality, where you have the higher income group with have access to all type of food, and they can afford in a way any food at any cost. But you also have the very poor and the bottom 40 who have problem in getting food. And recently we are in a way facing with conflict, for example, in Ukraine, where conflict can negatively impact almost every aspect of the food system, from production, harvesting, processing, and transport to input, supply, financing, and marketing, and also consumption. The direct impacts can include the destruction of agriculture and livelihood asset and can disrupt and restrict trade and movement of goods and services. We can see because Ukraine produce wheat as well, it affects their export and the import of several countries, and this can have negative effect on the availability and prices of food, including nutritional food. There are also the effect of intensive farming, climate change, and I also mentioned in terms of food waste. I think the earlier speaker have shown this figure before, and this shows that the global COVID-19 pandemic and social distancing effort implemented to slow the spread of the disease have disrupted economies and food system globally and locally with extensive food security consequences. You can see in terms of for the Malaysian context or situation at the beginning of COVID-19 in early 2020, where people is not really unsure of what to expect. There is no, in a way, not much different in terms of food buying, food purchasing, or food consumption. But once the lockdown is in place, then we can see panic buying start to occur. People start to buy a lot of food. They start to try to keep and store a lot of food, even though they know that some food have a very short shelf life. The expiry date is very short. So at the end, there's a lot of waste. Yeah? For example, we can see in Malaysia pictures of bread lying around because it's expired. But in the supermarket, you can see that there's a row of empty shelves where people have been buying that in bulk. And this effect will have or will increase food poverty and may increase food insecurity as well. From this figure, we can see that strict quarantine measures have been implemented worldwide to contain the spread of COVID-19. In Malaysia, we have several lockdown measures, and generally, mobility has been limited with shelter in place or stay-at-home rules imposed in some cases, with the exception of for essential or urgent needs, while border closures and lockdown are broadly limiting the movement of goods and people. And as the number of confirmed cases began to rise rapidly, many countries, including Malaysia and perhaps Indonesia, including major crop producers in the region, were quick to impose lockdown in the first quarter of 2020 before reaching the most stringent level after that. However, lockdown caused immediate, unwanted, and large-scale impact on entire stage of food supply chain. Yeah? You can see it affect not only the supply, but also farming, processing, distribution, and at the end, the consumers are the one that is most affected by the lockdown during COVID-19. And as I mentioned before, we can see that even though there is some restriction in movement or mobility, you can see that during the COVID-19 there is not much increase. There's slight increase, but it's not that significant. But earlier this year, because of the conflict in Ukraine, we can see that there is an increase, a significant increase in terms of food price, but we hope it is going to be more stabilized in the near future. So in terms of the COVID-19 effect, it can be shown by each of these three dimensions, yeah? Whether it is in terms of the initial effect, medium, and also longer term effect of the COVID-19. Okay. So we can see it affect all form or all pillars of the food security, whether with the availability or the access of to food. Yeah. So if we look into this diagram again, it's been mentioned earlier by the previous speaker. So yeah, it affects all the dimension with including the agency and sustainability. If we look into the availability, although the whole world grain stock were relatively high at the start of the pandemic and remain strong, but the global situation in a way affect the local variability and could shift over time. And then in terms of access, we can see that food access is the most affected by the COVID-19 crisis. The global economic recession triggered by lockdown had a very negative impact on people's ability to access food. There's quite a number of people who lost jobs and income. There's an increase in food price. People who are depending on school meal program now cannot get that support because school is was closed as well. In terms of utilization, we can see that utilization and nutrition have been affected by the pandemic in important ways as well. Good nutrition, which is important to support the human immune system and reduce the risk of infection. However, as the people's ability to access food diminished in the crisis, this had an impact on their ability to afford a healthy diet. There are also severe disruption to food supply chains that affect the stability of global food supply and access. And this, there are also export restrictions placed on staple food like wheat and rice, which lead to an increased price of those crops as compared to others. The most marginalized food system participants, including food producers, food system workers, have little agency as the crisis worsen. So the food system producers and workers have been on the front line and have suffered higher rates of disease and are affected by the supply chain of disruption the most. And the pandemic is intertwined with the sustainability dimension of food security in a complex ways. Yeah. And the expansion of industrial agriculture is associated with rising prevalence of zoonosis, and the fragile ecosystem, especially the degradation of wildlife habitat, are widely seen as a key driver of closer human and wild animal interaction, which lead to an increased opportunity for disease to transfer between them. So in the pandemic COVID-19 has revealed how vulnerable some countries are to food securities. Sorry. Okay. There are certain countries that use this crisis to improve self-production and also to increase urban farming and also domestic production. So it is in a way a blessing in disguise as well to most of the countries and also population. So in order to, in a way, compensate with the situation. And as we move from the pandemic phase to the endemic phase, then we need to consider all these factors, all the pillars and also dimension of food security in order to come out with a very good strategy to improve food security. So we need to take into consideration the resources part of the food supply, the production, the income. We need to consider that, employment opportunities for the people, and at the end, how food is being consumed and utilized in order to reduce malnutrition issues. So, so if we look into how to increase availability, one of the ways is for countries not to depend solely on import of food, but to optimize local production, or domestic production, where people can start to grow food at home, yeah, and or even to make urban farming more available to the population, especially for people who have very low income, so they can start to grow their own food, for example, fruits and vegetable. And countries have to look into the import capability and start to diversify their source of food. Yeah, and we also, in a way, when the crisis occurs, when industry start to develop further, where people start to utilize digital platform to get or to obtain food, and this in a way enable people to compare food price and try to find food that is more reasonable for them to purchase. And with development and technologies also, it can empower farmers to produce high yield of crops. And countries may also need to stockpile or to keep stock of the food in order to prepare themselves for crisis or conflict. And in other aspect, it also force countries and also people to come out with new innovation in order to prepare themselves for the possible effect of conflict or crisis. Yeah, for example, in Singapore, they approve the sale of the cell cultured meat. Yeah? So where they produce meat at the lab, and then they start to produce it in a massive amount, and then they start to in a way sell it to the individual, yeah, or to the people. So in a way that will reduce their reliance on meat import, or even for them to prepare or to grow or to keep farm animals. So they will not reliance on that. They will not rely on that, but they can, in a way, produce meat from the lab. So whether it is acceptable to people or not, and whether the meat is in a way affordable to everyone, is something that we have to see in the near future. Yeah? And also the countries need to consider continuing giving aid and subsidies, especially to targeted population who are very vulnerable to the situation. Yeah? For example, the poor people, not only in the rural area, but also the urban poor, people who are have special requirement, people who are have lost their income. So this, in a way, aid and also subsidies will really help this type of individual as compared to others. Yeah. So while there are many different avenues to obtain greater food system resilience, I believe that the most fundamental of this is diversification, as mentioned by the earlier speaker. And this can occur at many different levels and across components of the food system, including production, supply, consumers, and other stuff. Yeah. And diversification of agricultural production and trade on household-related responses are very critical. However, equally important for the food system resilience will be diversification along the entire value chain as well as in consumption. The earlier speaker also mentioned about diversity in diet, which is a critical element for ensuring healthy consumer outcome, while also carrying important implication for pattern of production and trade. So there's issue on diet diversity. If you have lost your income, then probably your diet might not be as diverse when you have the luxury to buy a lot of food. So there's an issue on that as well. So in terms of increased access, the world now produce more food than before for everyone, but there are still certain pocket of the population that can go hungry. So this is partly because food prices are often higher than what people can afford, and healthy food is often not available or affordable to the poorest people. So we can, in a way, use a digital platform to compare between prices, or even the government support is critical and important to make sure prices are fair for both buyers and also sellers of the food. So there need to be some control in terms of the food prices as well. So to make sure that all pocket of the population can afford the food, especially the nutritious food. But in certain situation, sometimes the nutritious food is more expensive as compared to the less nutritious food. So this is something that we need to consider. And probably the government need to provide more subsidies to the nutritious food, so that the people, in a way, can buy or are forced to buy the nutritious food, because the price is much cheaper than the less nutritious food. There's also issues in terms of minimal wages. In Malaysia, we just started to implement a new cutoff for minimal wages around RM 1,500. So it produced a lot of heated discussion, but in a way, it will help the low-income population to purchase more food or to buy more nutritious food as compared to before. There's also ways to, for example, to produce local markets where people or producers or farm can reduce transportation costs and cut the involvement of middlemen. So if you have that, then probably the price will be much lower. And farmers and also consumers can also come out with cooperatives, which is owned by farmers and workers and consumers, where they can manage the prices more affordable. Yeah? So in terms of increasing stability, so to have all a very lasting food security, all aspects of life and development need to be put into perspective. So you might need to have an enhanced price risk management system, and also probably to utilize more direct marketing using online platforms. There should be a political will to, in a way, manage the price increase, especially the food price, and to manage how food is being distributed throughout the countries. There are also consideration to provide opportunities or land for community gardens, transportation to market, and teaching about food security and nutrition in school, as it might help people or individual to choose a more nutritious food. And we need to look into the economical aspect as well. And also there's issue in terms of climate change resilience and also adaptation. As you have seen before, climate change can affect the food price in terms of the yield of the crops and etc. So that need to be considered as well. Yeah. And lastly, we need to, the previous speaker has mentioned about safety, hygiene, storage, and purposes. One of the aspects that I want to touch on is in terms of food waste versus food loss. Yeah, so these two factors are very important, because that in a way can affect the food availability to others. Yeah, for example, there are also some leftover of food that is deemed not suitable or not attractive for the market to buy, so it is being left at the farm. There are also food that expires before sale at grocery food that are thrown away at hotel, restaurant, and in home because it is not finished by the consumer. We have some initiative before where hotels will share their leftovers or food that is not finished to NGOs that will then distribute it to people who are in need. Yeah? For example, people, homeless individuals, or very poor people. So all food are being utilized and not into waste. There are also food that has been lost during harvest because of the change in climates. Crops spoiled by bugs from inadequate storage. So storage is quite important in that aspect. And also food that have been contaminated during transport because of unsuitable conditions. So these are the things that we need to consider to in a way reduce. So in a long way, it will increase utilization of food and the food is being distributed throughout the population. So as conclusion, as we are moving towards the endemic era, improving food security requires a collaborative effort, not only from government, but also from society. And all dimensions of pillars of food security need to be assessed and also strategized. And by doing that, then we can improve food security among the population in order to be prepared for any unexpected events such as conflict or crisis in the near future. So I think that's all from me. So I pass over back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for the interesting presentation about strategy for improving food security during transition era. From this, we can see that based on the multi-dimension aspect, such as the availability, it's interesting. Such as in Singapore, they develop sell cattle meat, so there is no cattle to produce meat, and also mostly for all the dimension, we have to apply or implement the digital platform to the system of food security. And also the one thing is for the utilization, yes, we have to concern about the food and waste. Actually, Indonesia is one of the largest to produce, I mean, not produce, have a problem with the food and waste. So as it is one thing that if we can solve this problem to reduce food and waste, so we can overcome the nutritional problem. Okay. Next, we are in Q&A question, the Q&A, and also, okay, please the committee to show the questions. Okay, the question, please. Please show. Okay, maybe I want to ask first, but as you said that from my view, there are some of the aspects that we have to apply the digital, so we can maybe handle the food insecurity. So it also, we need the infrastructure for the system. And also, if the remote area, such as in village, so they cannot maybe implement, so how we can synchronize between the development areas such as urban and also the village area, so we can mix together to implement all the digital platform.
Yeah. As I said before, COVID-19 also even though it caused quite a disruption in our daily life, but it's also produced opportunities. Yeah? For example, the online platform utilization, where people start to buy a lot from online, even the older generation, baby boomers like us, start to utilize more of the digital platform to communicate and also to buy food and to explore opportunities. So there are opportunities for people, especially people who have access to internet and also smartphone, to in a way share their produce. We have WhatsApp group of people who have been sharing food that they sell from the farm, direct from the farm, or even from the home that they cook, and then they are cutting the middleman. So the food is more the food price is more reasonable and affordable to us. And sometimes we don't realize that the tasty food is just nearby. Whereas before we need to go to restaurant far away to get the food. So in a way, we are helping each other as well. But instead, I do understand that in certain areas, especially the rural or the remote area, that will be a big issue. So they need to rely with communicating with the local organization, where they can, in a way, use the or set up the local market, where they can, in a way, share their produce and in a way provide to people as well. But as the internet access is rapidly moving out as well to the rural and remote areas, so we hope while with the accessible access of internet to that area will increase the utilization of digital platform, where people can share and sell their food or produce to other people from different areas. So, yeah. But it's a challenge, and I believe the government need to put extra effort to ensure that all people have that access to internet or online platform. So by doing that, then that will improve the life of that population as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Okay, please for Miss Valentina Yumanora Melopa, I see you raise hand. Maybe the committee can show or spotlight the participants. Valentina Yumanora Melopa. Okay, please give the permission to unmute for the participant Valentina Yumanora Melopa. Okay. Okay, maybe show the question and answer. Please. Okay. This is the question. What kind of processed food needs to be registered for distribution permits? As during the current pandemic, there are many packaged, wet cooked food and many other frozen products in circulation need to be registered. Okay, Professor, please.
This is something that I'm not very sure, because it will differs between countries. So in a way, there's, as mentioned by the earlier speaker, there will be some issues or concern in terms of when people start selling online, etc., whether they are registered or not registered. So in a way, it's up to us, consumer, to try to obtain more information on that. I believe all businesses should be registered. So if anything happen, then the agencies or the consumers can, in a way, refer back and check back on the situation. And if they are registered, then they will increase the confidence of the buyers or the consumers towards their product. So that is very important. But in the Malaysian context, it's not that how do you say not compulsory to register, but in a way it's up to individual or the people who sell the food to register and to get some certification, because if they get that certification, for example, even the halal certification or the HACCP certification, then this will increase the confidence of people. There are also, because there are also incidents where people get food poisonings or food that are spoiled when they reach to their home because it doesn't being prepared carefully or through a good process, then that will have some effect on the seller themselves. So if they are registered, then it will be I believe they should register their products. If there is permit that they need to carry it, they may need to apply for it, so that in a way it will make their product more trustworthy, and more people will buy from them, as compared to if you are not registered, the people are not sure whether the food has been prepared accordingly to the health safety regulation or not. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor. As long as I know that for the frozen food should be registered based on we have agency regarding food and drug. It's supposed to be frozen food, yeah, should be registered, and also they have a register number for the medium enterprise, small and medium enterprise, such as IFT, and for the big one is MD. Okay, next questions. Okay, the question: does implementing a food safety system have to be expensive? Is there a way in which we can implement food safety at a minimal cost while still prioritizing food quality and safety? Please, Professor.
Yeah, it will. I believe it depends on the country, and then how you handle the application or the system. And if you have that good organization with sufficient manpower and resources, then probably you can reduce the cost to implement the food safety system, because at the end of the day, the important is to ensure that the consumer will have quality and safe food. So that is the target. However, there's a lot of aspects or procedures that need to be adhered to before one can get the certificate or approval of the safety of their food. So the process is there, but as if the business has grown, there are a lot of people are applying for it, then I believe in the long term it can be reduced. But if the government can also help by, in a way, giving aids or subsidizing certain aspect of the process, so that it will not be too costly, and at the end, again, the people will have will be able to consume a quality and safe food. So that's something that is into consideration. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So maybe one more questions, please show. Okay, if to achieve food security, we have to fulfill the 4 points or dimension: availability, access, utilization, stability. So is there any country that already achieved food security? Because I think that is really hard to achieve. Okay, please, Professor.
There will be. I don't think there is a country that have managed to achieve total food security, because there will always be certain pocket of the population who are probably be affected by the food insecurity, especially, for example, if they are poor, they are low income. So that's why the strategy to improve or to help them is to focus our aid and also subsidies to that group of population, whereas the others, they can have the, in a way, for example, the normal price as compared to people who are being probably require certain amount of subsidies or support. There are also a program where, for example, in Malaysia, we are providing the rancangan makanan tambahan, or the food basket to children who are coming from poor background or coming from low income families. So they are being supported or being given food at school for them in a way to improve their dietary consumption. So they always pocket on that. And then in a way, we also have the responsibility to help those who are in need as well. Because, for example, in universities, we have like food bank, or kita panggil in Malaysia, we call it gerobok makanan, where people, even lecturers or people who want to donate food, can provide the food into that gerobok or into that place, and then people who are in need, students who are in need, can get that. So they're always, in a way, because of the current situation in the world, there will always be a pocket of population who are vulnerable, who are have issues with income that requires help, and also geographical location as well. As we discussed earlier, people from remote areas might have certain issues in terms of the access or availability of the food. So that is certain issues. But people in urban cities also have other issues that might impact how they distribute their income. For example, they are focusing more on, for example, rental of their homes, transportation, as compared to buying food, nutritious food. So they have to compensate and balance their income, the small income. So that's where minimal wage come in, or even in Malaysia, we have like, how do you say, financial support for people from low income, where the government provides certain amount of money for the people from low income, in order for them to help them, and in a way to ensure that they also can buy or obtain or consume food that are suitable for them. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Professor. I think similar with Indonesia, yeah, we have give some money to the people vulnerable. So, okay, during the time, I think we have to finish this session. Okay, the speaker already answered all questions. So, okay, Professor, is there anything else you would like to mention, or maybe deliver a closing remarks to end this discussion completely?
Thank you again for the organizing committee for inviting me to share my thoughts and some of my experience. And I believe it's up to us. I mean, the government have their own role, but we also, as people, in the community, in the society, we need to work together. In Malaysia, we call it kita jaga kita. We take care of ourselves, we support each other. If we are seeing people who are in need, then if we have extra, then we can share with them. Or even if we have the food, try to in a way buy food so that it won't go to waste. So sometimes we have that luxury to buy a lot of food, but in most of the time we don't finish our food. So even that small measures that we take might help other people outside there who are really in need. So in that way, if we can do that, we can together support each other, then another extra effort from the government will really improve the situation, especially when we are facing with the uncertainties in the future. The unknown is now become a norm, like what happened to the COVID-19 situation. We are not sure, we don't really know what will happen, but we are facing that with our willpower and working together. By working together, we managed to, in a way, go through that pandemic phase. Now we are moving to endemic phase, but we are not sure of what will happen in the future. So we need to be prepared on that. We are facing with the Ukraine crisis, certain energy crisis. So we always need to be prepared on that and try to do even a small part can help a lot to other people as well. So I believe that's all from me. Thank you again, and I apologize if anything that is lacking in my presentation.
Yeah, I agree with the food and waste, because it's the one thing that you can, it's small thing. You can reduce the food and waste. Just don't throw or eat your food completely. Do not waste it. So I agree. Okay, thank you, Professor. Now this is the end of the discussion. Before you leave, we would like to deliver a certificate to Professor Roslee as the speaker. Please kindly accept the certificate. Yes, the certificate. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. That's the end of this session. Next to back to the committee. We can continue or make it others programs to show. Next, the last person is about the topic back to adapting by preparing a healthy lifestyle in the transition era. It's supposed to be delivered by Ibu Dian Luthfiana Sufyan, S.Gz M.Gizi. She works as a lecturer in the program. Okay, I ask for the MC. I hand to the MC before we continue.
All right. Thank you so much to Mr. Nanang Rasulullah for being a great moderator in this webinar session. But before we go to the next speaker, we are going to do a nice breaking, which means I would like to invite all the participants to play the games that can help your brain more relaxed than before. So guys, do you want to know what game it is? Let's check on the screen. Okay, can we move to the next slide? Okay, in this session, we are going to play two sections of the game. There are listen to the song and focus on every clip section. And I'm so excited to play this game because I'm pretty sure this will bring so much fun for all of us. Okay, you must be curious about how the games work, right? So before we start the game, let's see the game rules. All right. In the listen to the tone section, you will hear a song that will be played for about 15 seconds. The song tone has been changed from the original tone, so which means it has been modified, and you must listen well and guess what song it is. Besides, in focus on every clip section, you will see a video that will be played also for about 15 seconds. You must pay attention and focus to each part of the video clip and answer the question that appear after the video ends. And there will be 5 questions in each section. So if you already have, please.
Yes, the answer is B, 7 rings.
7 rings. Oh, But in the comment section, there's also answer is D. Are you sure, Miss Aisha?
Yes, I guess.
You get. Are you Arianator? Are you listening to the Ariana Grande songs?
Yes, some of them.
Okay. What's your favorite?
Thank you. Next.
Same. Okay, let's check the real answer. The answer is 7 rings. Congratulations to Miss Aisha. You're the real Arianator. I agree that. Okay, let's move to the next video. Okay, thank you very much, guys. I think that was last question from the games, and unfortunately this game has to end right now. And I would like to say thank you so much to all the participants who joined the game in this session. I hope all the participants feel entertained and your brain get more relaxed so we can do a webinar in the next session with a fresh mind. Oh, but anyway, before we go to the next agenda, there is a video from our lovely sponsor, Soyjoy, and I ask for your attention to watch the video for a while because Soyjoy will give you a little information about their product. So, happy watching!
Pengen nggak lemes pas lari? Makan Soyjoy. Butuh protein praktis abis latihan? Makan Soyjoy. Takut banyak makan abis workout? Makan Soyjoy. Kedelainya bantu kenyang lebih lama. Soyjoy, solusi baik dari kedelai. Mau jaga makan tapi selalu kebablasan? Makan Soyjoy. Takut berat naik selama WFH? Makan Soyjoy. Takut kalah pas ngemil sore? Makan Soyjoy. Kedelainya bantu kenyang lebih lama. Soyjoy, solusi baik dari kedelai.
Otska. Soy cheese. Kini, kebaikan tidak hanya hadir dalam rasa manis. Nikmati rasa gurih dari Soyjoy Danish Cheese. Paduan keju Denmark yang gurih dan kebaikan kedelainya bantu kenyang lebih lama. Makan Soyjoy. Soyjoy, solusi baik dari kedelai.
Okay, that was an ad break from video from Soyjoy. Thank you very much for being our sponsor, Soyjoy. And remember, guys, if you need more protein in a healthy way, eat Soyjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, because we already want to entering Zuhur time, now it is time for a brief break. So we would like to remind you to take a screenshot of this webinar as proof of attendance. Please return to the Zoom meeting or YouTube Live at 12:30 p.m. And please stay tuned for the next webinar session. See you guys. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, let me start the webinar right now. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to all participants of the Nutrition Show International Webinar 2022. I hope all the participants have a nice break time and are ready to continue the webinar. But before we move to the next speaker, I would like to check all the participants both in the Zoom meeting and in YouTube Live. Are you guys ready or not? So, hello everyone. Are you ready to continue this webinar and gain more knowledge? Please let me know through the comment section. Are you guys ready to join the webinar, guys? Okay, once again, hello everyone. Are you ready to continue this webinar? Please let me know through the comment section. Okay, ready. Okay, I think everyone in the Zoom meeting is ready to continue the webinar. So I hope all the participants in YouTube Live also do the same thing. Okay, if all the participants is ready, now I would like to check if our moderator, Mr. Nanang Rasulullah, has already joined us. Hello, Assalamualaikum, Mr. Nanang. Are you here?
Please, okay, thank you. Okay, I'm ready to present.
Okay, so shall we begin the next session right now, Mr.?
Okay, we can continue to the next presenter. Yeah.
Okay, so without any further ado, let's continue today's webinar. To Mr. Nanang, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, MC Dr. Amrina, for the time. All right, good afternoon, everyone. This coming session is the final, I hope. Yeah, all of you still enjoy and still alive, still open your eyes and still breathe. Yeah, after your lunch. Okay. Okay, the next presenter will speak about the topic back to adapting by preparing a healthy lifestyle in the transition era. Okay, please show the CV of the presenter. Okay. Okay, Miss Ibu Dian is from University of Brawijaya for the graduate and the postgraduate in University of Indonesia. She is also a lecturer in UPN Veteran Jakarta at the Nutrition Study Program. Also, there are some publications. The latest one is about the prevalence and factors associated to household food insecurity during COVID-19 outbreak in the journal Ilmu Kesehatan Masyarakat. And also, she published some books. Yeah, okay, great. The book are pengukuran antropometri dalam daur kehidupan, and also objective oriented project planning OOP sebagai metode perencanaan program gizi di masyarakat as a project planning method in community nutrition. And others conference or seminar she also attend is measuring quality of life among women of reproducing age during COVID-19 pandemic, and also some workshop and training. She has also got of the research grants from the Samarek Fund, exploration of obsogenic environment in Jakarta primary schools using PSA audit tools, and also identification of factors related to nutrition knowledge among undergraduate students. That's the thing. I think it's incredible from the mission. Okay. Then, okay, so I will welcome to Ibu Dian. Are you there?
Yeah, Mr. Nasru,
Okay,
hello.
okay, Ibu Dian. So the time and skin is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator, for your very kind introduction. Now, I would like to share screen by myself. Okay, I hope that the material is shown already on your screen. Yeah, is it shown already? If there is a trouble, you can just say something, okay?
Okay, already, Miss or Ibu Dian.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. It is my honor to be able to share to all of you regarding today's webinar topic, how to ensure a healthy lifestyle during the COVID-19 transition. That possibly it is also the question from everybody, are we actually transitioning, and then whether the COVID-19 is endemic already, and what kind of healthy lifestyle that we should adapt to going through this. So without the further ado, these are several outlines that we are going to discuss. Yeah, there is COVID-19 transition, and then there is eating healthy before, during, and after pandemic, and also healthy lifestyle in post-pandemic era. Okay, sorry. Okay, this graphic is given by WHO. So these are the COVID-19 circumstances in Indonesia that we have been through since 2020. So if we going deeper into the confirmed cases and also the death. Here, the graph is escalated quickly, both in early and also in the mid of 2021. That is January 2021 and also July 2021. And if we going deeper, we can see here the graph is look like building tension before the storm when we are then finally attacked in the mid of 2021 by the Delta variant, because the Alpha variant is here, the Delta variant is here. And also it compounded with the vaccination of COVID-19 that had just been started that time. And if we going further to the next peak here, February 16, 2022, when we are once again bombarded with another variants of COVID, which is the Omicron. They are more virulent, however, less fatality. That is why the graph of death here is steeper. And then if we go to the recent dates, there I obtained the data around June 24, 2022. The cases of confirmed cases is still there. It increased for 2,000. And the death is also still reported, 5 deaths. The era that we call as transition or endemic, however, the fact is still there. The virus is still there. Given the fact that our president already announced that we can take off our face mask in the outdoor activities, and also several other restrictions have been lifted. However, the virus is still going around the population. So if we then questioning is COVID-19 effectively are already endemic, we need to go back to the definition of endemic itself, that it doesn't mean the zero COVID-19 cases are harmless, but the virus is still there. We are living with the virus. However, the number of infection and also the death is now more manageable and predictable. So someday can still trigger an outbreak. However, it's more predictable, not as spiral out or overwhelmed as it went on the peak of the pandemic year ago. However, now we can just manage as the endemic. And also, we need to acknowledge the contribution of the COVID-19 vaccination that is now more than 48 million people now comply and also already received the booster vaccine. So, giving the solution, then we are understand and we need to adapt that eating healthy, not just post the pandemic, but before, during, and after the COVID-19 pandemic. So these are several tips to adapting to eating healthy. Yeah, that is encouraged by the FAO. So first, we need to encourage more dietary diversity. So we need to admit that there is no single food that is contain all the nutrients. So we need to mix it up, right? And also we need to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, and then we need to be wholesome and go nuts. And of course, I didn't mean to be crazy here. So just put nuts, legumes in your diet. And then we need to limit fats, sugars, and salt, and practice food hygiene and also good food hygiene. Be physically active and drink plenty of water. I will just explain later on the next slide. So this figure, the right figure, is derived from secondary analysis of the Indonesia Family Survey that is analyzed by Mehraban in 2021 et al. As we can see here on the figure, it is covering the period of 2000 and 2014 when Indonesia population changes the dietary diversity driven by decrease of several foods that is regarded as healthy foods. Like for instance, I need to hide the float panel, hide the floating, okay. Like vegetable is decreasing, fruits is decreasing here, and then fish is also decreasing, and many other. And in contrast, another food group is that regarded as not that healthy, like processed food or prepared food is now increased. as contrary. And we need to rethink, look at this figure. This figure is happening before the pandemic, and we need to just adjust after the pandemic. We still relevant and need to be applied to Indonesia balanced nutrition that we call as tumpang gizi seimbang, not just comply to the quality, but also the quantity, that no single food that is contain all the nutrients. So we need to put more diverse food on our diet. Like for instance, carbohydrate, we need to comply to 3 to 4 portions, and then fruits and vegetables, 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 respectively. And then animal and protein based protein, animal and plant, and then also sugar, salt, and oil that need to be restricted. And also another pillar, we need to be physically active, and then regular checking on our BMI and also body weight, and just drink plenty of water. Okay, talking about eating plenty of fruits and vegetables despite of the benefit that is introduced, and maybe we already know what is the benefit of eating more fruits and vegetables. However, the fact that is noted by S.Gz 2018 Indonesia Basic Health Research is very contrary. So S.Gz 2018 has noted that Indonesia population, only 5% of population that is comply to the recommended portion of fruits and vegetables, which is more than 5 portions per day in a week, and only 5% of all the citizens of Indonesia. And we already know that fruits and vegetables give us so many benefits, like including source of dietary fiber that is good for your GI tract, and then lower the risk of non-communicable diseases, and also source of phytochemical that good for antioxidants, and also boosting your immunity. A randomized control trial that is conducted by Gibson et al. In the year of 2012 has reported that antibody response to post-vaccination elderly is higher on those who eat more portion of fruits and vegetables as compared to those eat less. So here we want to signify that fruits and vegetable is really taking contribution to the human immunity. And in case that you are forgot what is fruits and vegetable, because the rate of complying to the recommended portion is very, very low, I just want to show you this video that is developed by FAO that regard the 2021 as the year of the International Fruits and Vegetable. Wait. And I hope the sound is okay.
Colors and shapes, raw or cooked, sweet or bitter, soft, crunchy, fragrant, pungent. All of us unique and special, full of fiber, vitamins and minerals, history, culture, and traditions. Don't just fill your plate, fill your stories and memories. Long and short, spirit and plant. Sometimes awkward or misshapen, forgotten or neglected, but never ever ugly, whatever people say. Because we're what really makes you tick, what makes your eyes sparkle and your smile dazzle. We are fruits and vegetables, simple, beautiful.
Okay, that's fruits and vegetable. Yeah, making your eyes sparkles. Yeah, because vitamin A can just clear your vision, and also vitamin C can dazzle your smile. So the color on fruits and vegetable is attributed to very diverse of phytochemicals that is very beneficial for our health. And also FAO here in their documents of the International Year of Fruits and Vegetable has signified interlink the color of each fruits and vegetable and the decreased risk of certain diseases. And also, one of the vitamin of interest during the COVID-19 was vitamin D, and relating to the mortality. A study that is conducted by Dimitrios here in 2021 tried to associate between the concentration of the vitamin D level on the blood and the risk to mortality here. This horizontal axis here represent the level of vitamin D, whether deficient, insufficient, mild insufficient, and also sufficient. And as we can see here, those who are deficient in vitamin D has more risk to mortality. And likewise, the vitamin C status to mortality here, the study that is conducted by Krishnan et al. In 2020 also having quite similar result, that those who have enough vitamin C is actually more survive rather than those who are lacking on vitamin C. So next is be wholesome and go nuts. It means that just eat the whole foods, not the food that is changing the form already. It means that, as the example here, that corn, the original form, it is now can be so many things like popcorn, canned corns, and then corn chips. Like we know we are going through the nutrition transition at a great speed. Indonesia, as said by Barry M. Popkin, that we are undergoing the nutrition transition, meaning that we are now very away from the natural form of foods. However, we still need to acknowledge that original form of foods is high in nutrient density, and then high in fiber and vitamin, minerals, and then those who are processed, high processed, is low in fibers, vitamins, minerals, and also often high in saturated fats and sugar, also salt. Okay, let me back to the highlighter. Okay, a study that is conducted by Suksatan, this is the meta-analysis, just give you a glimpse of why do we need to eat wholesomes. That's because ultra-processed food is associated and correlated with high of hazard ratio that can also link to mortality. And another study that is conducted by Kim et al. In 2016, yeah, here they reveals that those who admitted to the hospitals due to COVID, having very mild to mild symptom if they have plant-based diet. So we need to put more plant-based protein, like for instance nuts and legumes, to our diet, because it has the mechanism to boost our immunity during these circumstances. And also limits fats, sugar, and also salt, as it recommended by Indonesia Ministry of Health. Like fats should be no more than 5 tablespoons per day, and then sugar doesn't need to be more than 4 tablespoons per day, and salt should be under 1 teaspoon. And the evidence base of that notion is this several figure. Like for instance, the first figure here revealed that if the plasma glucose in your body, it means that if you have hyperglycemia, very high blood sugar in the body, it may alter the ability of our body to phagocyte the bacteria. So the ability to fight the bacteria is also declining. And then the next figure, it tells us that the choice of fats we made, it also contribute to mortality. Like there is a positive correlation between trans fat intake and also saturated fat intake with high mortality. However, the inverse correlation, yeah, the more you eat monounsaturated fat, the more you eat the polyunsaturated fat, the mortality risk is decreased. So we need to have healthier choice for our dietary in the regular basis. And also the third figure here telling us about intake of salt. Yeah, if we compare 12 grams of salt in a day 9 grams and 6 grams here, the more we reduce our salt intake in a day, it also decreases the cytokines, inflammation cytokines like IL-6 is decreased, and also IL-23 is also decreased. It means that it could be salt also paying contribution on reducing inflammation in our body. And in overall, we need to, instead of eating fast food, snack foods, fried food, just choose the healthier ones, like still fats but unsaturated, like fish, oily fish, avocado, nuts. And then for sugar, instead of choosing the sugary snacks, candies or sugar, sweet beverage, just pick the original form of fruits. And then we need to limit also the salt, like no more than 5 grams per day or no more than 1 teaspoon, by just adjusting. So don't put any additional salt on your dining table, for instance. And then we need also to go back to the food label, because sometimes sugar and salt is written in a different names on the packaging product, the food label, like natrium, for instance. And we need to also practice good food hygiene, like keep your hands clean. Also, just bring your own cutleries. Cooking utensils need to be, make sure that is clean, and then separate raw foods and cooked foods. Bring your own shopping bags when you shopping, and then make sure that you cook thoroughly. Keep food at safe temperature if you want to eat it later, and then observe good hygiene practice when handling fresh fruit that is consumed raw. For instance, you are eating salad or maybe pecel in Indonesia, we need to make sure, because it can be that it's cooked in the morning and you want eat it later, so we need to just make sure that it is safe. Then about physical activity and drink plenty of water. Here is the study that is conducted by Niemann et al. In 2021, and the study suggested that those who has the moderate exercise in everyday life is correlated with the decreased risk of URTI, which is the upper respiratory infection that is relevant for today's topic. And sleep deprivation is also contribute to the human immunity. A study from Prater in 2016 just revealed that those who has sleep duration less than 5 hours per day is having the higher risk of infection here. And it's significant. So just to make sure that you have enough sleep every day. And if it's sometimes difficult for students, just make sure that your lack of sleep is not happen in regular basis. Okay, and just quit smoking. So it is very obvious, because smoking is alter your respiratory system, and also COVID-19 is also altering your respiratory system. So why do we need to fuel the flame? It's already pandemic, and then you put another substance. You are on the middle of substance use. Why do we need to do that? So don't put any fuel to the flame. We are already on the pandemic that is altering the respiratory system. Why do we need to put another problem to it? So just quit smoking. A study here conducted by Omar et al. In 2021 has revealed that those who smoke has more severe symptom of COVID as compared to those who didn't smoke, like sore throat, and then shortness of breath, fever, myalgia is more severe on those who are smoker. So the take-home message for what I have already explained is encourage dietary diversity is a must, and then consume more fruits and vegetables, prefer whole foods rather than processed foods, restrict your sugar, salt, and fat intake, and then have the regular physical activity and just quit smoking. Okay, well, I think that's all I have to share with all of you. I hope it is very useful. And okay, thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Dian, for the remarkable presentation. As we can see that the previous presenter said that we have a problem, problem. The dietary diversity is reduced because of not pandemic. So, from this, based on this, we can see that we need to make it our food more diverse, yeah, as Miss Ibu Dian present, so we can eat a lot of various food, as various as food we can see or we can consume, yeah. And also about the limitation of fat, previous question from the first speaker, there is a question about the oil, yeah. So I said that actually the original process in India is steaming and boiling. So if we can reduce the frying with the oil, so we can reduce also the fat intake, yeah. And also we have to change our lifestyle, such as the how to make it our time to make it enough sleep, because mostly today we also interact daily before we sleep, yeah. We still make it, what you call, yeah, your mobile phone, you still access the mobile phone, Instagram, all the thing. So maybe you can reduce the activity, yeah, to interact with our mobile phone. And also I think the most thing about the smoking is the problem that we have to stop about this problem to reduce the smoking, because it Budian said that why we feel the flame, yeah, why we feel the flame for our body. Okay, now we are in Q&A discussion. So I will collect the question. Please the committee to show the question from the participant. Okay, this question is, does implementing of a safety system have to be expensive? Is there a way in which we can implement food safety at a minimal cost while still prioritizing food quality and safety? Okay, please, Ibu Dian, you answer this question.
Yeah, well, I don't think that applying the food safety system need to be expensive. However, we need to be prioritize what is needed and what is not. Like, for instance, if we can just separate raw food and cook food minimally, I think that's already one of the food safety pillars. So I don't think that food safety need to have so much cost in a way that I don't think we need to just buy very high or valuable things to cooking utensils, for instance. Just make sure that you clean it thoroughly, you clean it regularly. I don't think it would be necessity to put a cost that is beyond our necessary. So I don't think that it should be expensive.
Okay, thank you. It means that if we have to make our or practice the hygiene and sanitation, yeah, it's supposed to be at no cost, maybe. Yeah, at no cost. Not nothing. Just clean it. Yeah. Okay, next questions. Okay, next question is, as previously explained, the COVID-19 situation is now in a period that can be more manageable and more predictable, so that protocols can be relaxed. One thing that has been done by the Indonesian government is the easing of the use of masks. Is this actions appropriate to take during a transition period like now, or does it even risk bringing the COVID-19 situation back to worse? Okay, please, Ibu Dian.
Okay, thank you for the question. I would go with the government. Like, the president already announced that we can take off our masks during the outdoor activities. So it means that if our activities is indoor, just stay on the regulation. We still need to put our mask on. And also, if you are tracking the new information from WHO, there's still introduction of new variants of interest. It is BA4 and BA5. So, well, I don't think that it would be even worse if we are just not comply to any kind of regulation. However, just still stay true to the regulation. You need to put your mask on, and then do the physical distancing even in the indoor area. So yeah, I guess so, because for having the status of endemic COVID-19, it's not a simple thing to be said, because as I mentioned earlier, it can still trigger any outbreaks in the near future. However, we pray that it's more manageable and predictable, so it wouldn't be so deadly as the previous variants.
Okay, thank you. So we have to be aware, even though the 19 COVID manageable and controlled, yeah, but you have to still practice the protocols. Okay, next questions. Okay, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it was known that patients who tested positive for COVID-19 were given a high energy, high protein diet. Can you explain why the diet was chosen to be given to them, and how much effects does the diet have on the patient's recovery? Thank you. Okay, please, Dian.
Yeah, it is big. So first, we need to make sure that the high energy is not coming from carbohydrate, because the metabolism of carbohydrate is giving the result of high carbon dioxide. So we need to make sure that high energy is not coming from the carbohydrate. So, but I would say that I agree that it should be high in protein diet, because we are on the recovery situation. So it should be nutrients that can boost your immune system, and also not only protein on the diet, but also we need to make sure the vitamins and also the minerals content, which also contribute to the recovery. So it's actually the whole diet, adjusting the quantity and also the quality is very important. I guess that.
Okay. Okay, next questions. Any questions still? Okay, maybe I have a question for Ibu Dian. Okay, so about mostly people said that the food is expensive. Yeah.
Makan dulu syaratnya.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mostly people said that if we eat fruit, maybe they think that fruit is expensive. Yeah. So what do you think about that? Because actually, if we can explore, the fruit actually cheaper. But why most people think that the fruit is expensive? And
fruit.
Fruit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean fruit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How about to manage this so they are to impress the
Yeah.
people that you have to eat fruit. You have to eat fruit.
Okay. Okay then. I do remember that I ever read a paper about fruits consumption and price. And actually, I would say that if you just think it directly, of course, it would be expensive. So one paper said that it is regarded as expensive because fruits is not make you full as nasi uduk, for instance. Like nasi uduk, you can buy for 5,000, but fruits 5,000. How many we can get? Maybe just 2 slices, and it not make your stomach full. So in that paper, they try to correlate and they revealed that high energy density and the price of the food is inversely correlated. So it means that fruit that is contribute to less energy is perceived as expensive because it doesn't make you full enough as compared to food that is high in energy like nasi uduk or another nasi. It gives you satiety, fullness feeling. But yeah, of course, it doesn't need to be always like that because fruits is not our staple. So it just additional that we want to get the essential minerals and vitamins there. So it doesn't need to be our staple that we always have fruits in the big portion. No, I guess it could be put as a snack that maybe is your budget, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Any other question to show?
I think there's no more question, Mr.
Okay, there's no more question. Okay, it's supposed to be it's the time for the finishing our webinar today. So we have to end this topic webinars presented by Ibu Dian. Then I will please to Ibu Dian to deliver closing remarks for 1 or 2 minutes before we end this webinar completely. Oh no, certificate later. So I ask to Ibu Dian to say some closing remarks.
Okay, for the closing remarks, well, as I mentioned earlier, that healthy lifestyle adaptation, it doesn't need to be after the pandemic, but all the way along from here to there, from the before, during, and pandemic, we need always to sustain the healthy lifestyle. Like for instance, dietary diversity, and then eat plenty fruits and vegetables, quit smoking, be physically active. So if you have time to just follow this kind of rules, I would say that your life would be away from any kind of infectious disease. Well, I guess that's all. Yeah.
Okay, this is the end of the last session. So we'd like to deliver a certificate to Ibu. It has been shown here. Please kindly accept this certificate, Ibu Dian. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nasru, and all the committee. Very honored.
Okay. Finally, this whole webinar already finished. On behalf of UPN Veteran Jakarta, as well as the team of students at Nutrition Study Program, thank you for taking the time to join this webinar. Once again, I would like to thank all speakers, Ibu Dr. Yessi Crosita Octaria, and then Professor Dr. Roslee Rajikan from Malaysia, and then the last one is Ibu Dian Luthfiana Sufyan, S.Gz and M.Gizi, for joining us today and providing their first-hand experience. Please look for our follow email that will alert you to the on-demand status of today's event so that you can review any material you missed or simply go over again. Also, please take a moment to fill out our questions exit survey sent from committee. Then my name is Nanang Natra. Thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you again in our forthcoming webinar and have a great day. I will give some content to close all this today. COVID-19 pandemic entering to endemic. We can fight side by side as a true friend. The session already has come into the last minute. Now it is the time to webinar end. Enjoy vacation, forgetting silence, bring a lot of food, it doesn't matter. See you again, all the audience. Hopefully you are happy forever. Flowers being bloom, beautiful to see. Wassalamualaikum, terima kasih. So thank you. Then I offer you to MC Nisa. Okay, thank you.
All right, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much to our moderator, Mr. Nanasullah. It was such a great pantun. And I also like to thank you to all the speakers who kindly give us such an informative and useful knowledge to all of us. It was really such a great webinar. I hope we all can understand and implicate it as well as we can. All right, now after we do the webinar, please fill the post test on the link that will be given in the Zoom chat and in the comment section, or you can see it directly on your screen. Post test can be done in about 15 minutes, starting from now. And for your information, the certificate will be given to all the participants, but only the first 500 participants will be given a signed e-certificate. So do not miss out to take a screenshot of your screen as a proof of attendance. Okay, once again, the e-certificate will be given to all the participants, but only the first 500 participants will be given a signed certificate. So do not miss out to take screenshot of your screen as a proof of attendance. All right, ladies and gentlemen, finally, we have come to the end of the end. Those are the agendas we have presented to you today. We hope today's event can bring new insight that can be used in our daily life. And as the master of ceremony, I do apologize if there are any mistakes while presenting this webinar. Thank you so much for your attention. See you on the next occasion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a good day, everyone. Salam Bela Negara.